X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rate every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Zach. Adam, I got a question for you.
Sure, what's up?
How many economics podcasts do you listen to on a weekly basis?
Oh, I listen to zero economics podcasts. I maybe check, what's the NPR thing where they talk about economics? It's not Freakonomics. It's
Planet Money.
No, it's not Planet Money.
The Indicator.
No. It's the one they just do as part of the morning show. I can't think of what it's called. Anyway, that's about the limit. How about you? What are you clocking? I bet it's more than me.
I bet it's Planet Money and The Indicator from NPR.
So two economics podcasts. For
one
you.
of them's a daily podcast, if it helps.
Wow. So. Okay. Well, that's just like, I don't know what that is. That's beyond podcasting to me. That's just like news coverage.
It's National Public Radio, so yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of. The daily one's only like 10-minute episodes. It's quick stories.
Okay. Yeah, even
regardless.
That,
Because of that, I am someone who was aware of Davos.
Oh, sure.
The World Economic Forum.
Yeah, that was in the news,
Which makes it very interesting that we're going to be covering this episode, a X-Men comic that takes place at the World Economic Forum at Davos, as part of our episode all about politics, which of course was recommended by nobody.
Nobody?
Nobody. There's two N's.
Oh, okay. So it's a Patreon subscriber.
My Patreon subscriber to nobody who wanted us to talk about global politics and the X-Men dealing with such things. So we're doing that to kick off our new year, Adam.
Great. I love this. Happy New Year. And, we might as well get into it. The world is a fraught place.
Well, would you like to tell our people how they can request an episode just like nobody?
Oh, yeah. If you are somebody, you may want to go over to patreon.com/comicsxf. And, I think it's just a couple of bucks. You can get an episode handcrafted by us to the point where it could be as specific as do an episode about global economics and politics. And we will do it. So hit us up with your ideas and your bucks and help support all of the wonderful people over at Comics XF in their ongoing journey to provide you with amazing comics criticism, etc., etc. Zach, where are we starting this week?
Davos, Switzerland, the World Economic Forum.
Yes, several of Krakoa's leaders have been invited for dinner, and this is X-Men Volume 5? Number 4.
It's John Hickman.
Leinil Francis Yu.
John Hickman, Leinil Francis Yu, and Gary Alagulian, who I believe this is his last issue before he sadly passed away.
Oh, that's sad.
Sonny Gao does the colors. Clayton Cowles on those letters. And in this issue, Apocalypse, the giant gray evil man.
Big blue, big gray.
He goes to the Davos World Economic Forum in a 3-piece suit.
Looking good.
It's actually just a 2-piece suit. Let's be clear. Sorry. 3-piece would be too formal for this. It's a business meeting.
Oh, man. Yes, there is a great deal of humor to be gotten out of the fact that the attendees from Krakoa of this meeting are Magneto, Xavier, and he whose name cannot be spoken by humans, but formerly known as Apocalypse, along with Cyclops.
One of the humans does ask, would you prefer Mr. Sabanur? It's great,
It's a
actually.
great line.
No one knows how to deal with Apocalypse at this dinner party, which is also
Understandable.
how much is it weird that there's at least 2 dinner parties that Apocalypse makes awkward on Krakoa?
It
Like in
seems to
his
be a
year
theme.
on the books. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a theme. Also in attendance are Cyclops and Gorgon, and all of them are wearing very nice tailored suits. So the fact that Xavier is walking in with the Cerebro helmet on and the suit, um, Gorgon wearing, well, I guess it's not that weird for Gorgon.
Gorgon
but,
has his sunglasses on because if he doesn't wear them, he'll kill everybody.
right.
Gorgon has a perfectly good reason for wearing his sunglasses indoors. It's so he doesn't murder you.
So this issue is notable for a couple of reasons. The suits being one. The second might be the data page that introduced the concept of war captains. So we're finally getting an idea of how the defense and strategy involving Krakoa is developed with these leaders.
Turns out Cyclops is running it. Cyclops, who that first year of Krakoa, Cyclops was just vibing. And I love that for him. He's enjoying all of this. He's swarmy with the guy who's, patting him down and all this stuff. He said, "Don't worry, we'll be on our best behavior." And then in what I've got to say is one of my favorite parts, he looks at the guard that he's working with, puts his hand on him. He says, "I got some real bad news on that good behavior front, friend." Because the US government is trying to assassinate Magneto and Xavier and Apocalypse, and Scott Summers and Gorgon are there to quietly stop that while the leaders of Krakoa have a very fancy dinner.
An intense dinner. So we have representatives from Wakanda, China, the United States, Brazil, Italy, Switzerland, and India. We have this delicious 4-course menu that is going to be served out. And the interactions at the table, the way the issue is structured, for those of you who haven't read it, is it's the interactions at the table. And then, as Zach mentioned, we have hired assassins on floors above and below that are prepared to, at a moment's notice, come in and somehow kill these guys, which, like, did you really think that was going to work? And of course,
Xavier straight up calls out. He's like, "You tried to kill me like a month ago."
You succeeded. He
doesn't mention that part.
He does not. So as Magneto is delivering a really classic soliloquy, which we can get into, Cyclops takes one floor, Gorgon takes the other, and makes mincemeat out of the attackers. So it's great.
It's great, and yet it almost takes away a bit from just how cutting Jonathan Hickman's dialogue is with Magneto. Magneto primarily, but also Xavier and Apocalypse get great moments. They talk about what the role of Krakoa is and the economic uncertainty that that's bringing up with all of these nations now that Krakoa has gained a massive amount of wealth and influence in the world in a very short amount of time. And what it comes down to, and this is, there's a criticism of Krakoa that some people who, what I would say, are reading things in maybe not the best faith, saying, "Oh, they're just using, they're using capitalism and doing all this stuff. They aren't better than the humans." Magneto directly talks to that and says, "Look, we're doing what you guys are doing. You're mad at us for doing the things that you have been doing for years to oppress people. So here's what we're going to do. It turns out you've been very successful at that. We're going to be better than you. We're going to be more successful than you, not because we need this, but because it's a language we know you understand so that you will know when you are beaten, and then we can maybe make a better world. But until then, we're going to continue to flex our muscles, and there's nothing you can do about it."
Yeah, there's this amazing 9-panel page where he is chowing down on some steak, and I do have some questions about whether Magneto is speaking with his mouth full, which is very
He is.
possible.
He absolutely is.
But he does say to this group of international liaisons, "We will buy your banks, we will buy your schools, we will buy your media, we will buy your politicians." And later and farther down the page, he says, "And that is how it will end, like a fire with no oxygen." And it is really just, as you say, him talking about what their toolbox is and using it against them, and then watching them kind of the blood drain out of their faces. They realize, oh, we're screwed. This is not going to work out.
And, that's the tool of the oppressor is, okay, we're going to meet you in good faith at this dinner party. We're also going to assassinate you right here. That doesn't work out. The American liaison gets a little freaked out because his plan has not worked. And Charles Xavier gives a great message. Again, you could read this as a direct response to criticism of Krakoa, but that's not how comics works in the timeline they are created on.
Yeah.
This is a smart writer looking at, I know what I built here. Hold on, let me tell my story. Charles Xavier says, "Do you think I've completely given up on my dream of mutants and humans coexisting peacefully? Do you think I don't love you? Because I do. And I want you to always remember that." He takes off his helmet for the first time in this era. So you are sure beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is Charles Xavier saying these things. He has not given up on what he's been doing for years. But he has realized that the moment that that mutants step out of line, they will be crushed, they will be beaten down, and they will not have a chance to coexist. So the mutants have to strengthen themselves so that they can withstand any of that, so that maybe his dream has a chance of coming true.
Yeah. And it's capped off by Magneto basically saying, "Hey, we noticed that you tried to kill us, and if you try it again, expect a response."
Come at the king, best not miss.
Yeah, there's some really great moments in here, including when Apocalypse notes that as the U.S. Ambassador says something along the lines of, "Well, who cares about how the Bronze Age ended?" And Apocalypse is like, I know, I was there."
You
He's like,
should
"Oh yeah,
care."
well, how did it end?" I ended. It was me.
It was me. And Sabanor is so good in this issue. It's so frustrating that Apocalypse was turned from, frankly, a pretty mediocre villain with a cool design into this powerhouse of a character.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, well, I miss him. I really do.
I miss him. He'll be coming back.
I'm sure.
One of these days.
Yes.
One of these days, our blue dad will return for us. Will he do some things that aren't great? Yeah, he's still a supervillain, folks.
Speaking of supervillains, I do appreciate that while Cyclops just, concussive blasts everybody, Gorgon has taken his blades and removed all of the soldiers' arms. So, because he believes in Krakoan law and he is not going to kill anyone. However, he wants everybody to remember the the guilt and the embarrassment of this day.
Gorgon does not have a good grasp on how much blood a human body can lose.
I was wondering that myself, but
Gorgon doesn't. Gorgon kind of dumb, and I'm glad we have reset Gorgon so that he is a usable character nowadays. But Gorgon is kind of dumb, but he works in this issue. It's just like, this is a cool, fun issue of comics that is the promise of, hey, this is the stuff you can do with the story engine that is Krakoa. Mm-hmm. It is not the best payoff of that story engine. It's not even the best payoff in this run of that story engine, but it's a pretty darn good one. This is a good issue. This is the issue that was like, because the first 3 issues of Hickman's X-Men, I was hot and cold on. There were parts I liked, parts that I wasn't so sure about. It was a lot of setup. 4 is when I was like, right, he wrote Hoxpox. It's the best X-Men story. I should just I should just like hang on for the ride.
Yeah. And
It's a good ride. I love that ride.
So I think we should try and rank this on our big old list. What do you think, Zach?
I think that we have 726 stories of X-Men ranked from best to worst on our road to 800. Number 1 on our list is the House of X Powers of 10, written by Jonathan Hickman. Number 100 is Giant Size X-Men, number 1. Number 200 on this list is Generation X Underground Special. Number 300 on our list is Gambit Volume 1. Number 400 on our list is Cable and Deadpool 7 through 10, The Burnt Offering. Number 500 on this is Deadpool Bad Blood. Number 600 on this list is X-Men Heroes for Hope. Number 700 on this list is Dazzler, the movie. And then the Draco's at the bottom.
Top 100?
Yeah, I mean, it is. Here's why that's not even a question for me. Hickman's New Mutants is at 104.
Mm-hmm.
Marauders is at 109.
Yep.
The first arc of that. This is better than both of those.
Yeah, I would agree.
It's better than Giant Size X-Men number 1.
It's better than Age of X-Men Next Gen at 96.
Better than Next Gen. Is it better than Al Ewing's first arc of Sword?
I don't think so. Having just reread it. Yeah, I think we're right in there. But it is better than Jeff Johns Morlocks 1 to 4. So I would put it at 78.
Wow, that was shockingly easier than I expected.
Well, we've been reading a little bit more of the contemporary stuff, so I feel like it's a little easier for us. We know this is solid stuff, but we also have like some other landmarks to tether it to. So
listen, it's a good issue. Leinil Francis Yu does kill it on this issue.
Absolutely wonderful.
Very tight. The problem with this one is that very soon after the Crucible happens,
right? So it gets overshadowed.
And that's like, oh, there's the high water mark. There we go.
Yep. So, speaking of high watermarks, I feel like we really should, for our next story, just talk about one of the best couple of issues of X Factor maybe ever written. What do you think, Zach?
No, that's not what we're doing.
Oh, shucks.
We're talking about X Factor 82 and 83, the X-Patriots, by Peter David, Rourke Tyler, and Mark Basella.
Yeah, this is that unfortunate little period in between Quesada drawing the book and Executioner's Song, where Peter David tried to go off on a little tangent about a group that had previously appeared in the book, the X-Patriots. In this case, spelled X apostrophe Patriots, who are a group of Genosian refugees who have come to America seeking a home and don't really know, I guess, about the events of Extinction Agenda. Not sure how that timeline really works out.
I don't necessarily know if they don't know about Extinction Agenda or if they say, yeah, I don't really trust that the government got overthrown. I've seen a lot of governments I'd just rather not be there.
Yeah. So essentially, the X Factor crew is, kind of on a break between assignments, getting into conflicts with Val Cooper and, who's in charge here, all the normal Peter David X Factor stuff. But in the midst of this group is causing some trouble. We also get a visit before that from the X-Force version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Yeah, they show up. What
Toad
a weird cast.
Fantasia.
People really like Fantasia. I think she has a nice design. I've got nothing for her.
Does she have a nice... I don't really understand the Fantasia thing. Like, I understand wanting more out of the character, but was there a lot there to begin with? No,
and I think that's... Fantasia strikes me very much as, all of those characters that were in the new X-Men yearbook that people... that had nothing going for them except for like 2 likes and a dislike. So people grafted whatever they wanted onto these characters and said, no, this is definitely what this character thinks. And then everyone was like, who the heck is DJ?
Right.
It's that.
What I will say is that there is a particularly great moment where Sauron is fighting Rain up in the air and he lets it slip that he killed Sam. And Rain is
Sam
like,
gets better.
You did what? Now, of course, we as the readers know that Sam is an external at this point and immortal, and Rain does not. So she basically just bites Sauron's neck, which is fantastic.
Rurik Tyler does an interesting job on the art here. It's not my favorite, but I know that in issue 83 has art that's not your favorite either, Adam.
Well, yeah, I mean, Tyler's artwork is just kind of like fill in house whatever. It definitely does not look good. It's definitely not as stylized as we've been used to with Stroman and Casada. But gosh darn it, man, I always get annoyed when I see Mark Pacella's artwork on a book. It just drives me absolutely nuts. And we were talking about this off air. I think a lot of this stems from just like being 13 and seeing Pacella take over X-Force and just wondering what, like, I have friends who could probably draw this book better than this. And this book just looks like absolute garbage. The second issue here that we're talking about involves the X-Patriots being taken on a tour of New York City. So they get to visit places like the Metropolitan Museum of Art or a disco, which is strangely open during the day for some reason.
You've never been to a day disco?
What's that? A day
You've never
disco?
been to a day disco?
Well, sure, I guess. Is this like a common thing that people just...
Everyone goes to day discos all the time, Adam. You know this.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were a metropolitan New York boy. Big Apple, big city. Big dreams, Adam Rock.
Wherever this supposed day disco is, I hope they're still listening to Peter David's immortal lyrics to the mutant rap, which Strong Guy...
That joke sucks.
Oof. It's a definitely a spin on Vanilla Ice's Go Ninja, Go
rap.
Ninja Go, the ninja
Go
rap.
Ninja, go Ninja, go. Go Ninja, go. Here's the thing. That song's so bad that it rules. It kind of rules. No, it kind of rules that Vanilla Ice, for a major motion picture, did a movie where he's unironically going, go Ninja, go, talking about giant dancing turtles. The thing about not really Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, but the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie is that it's literally the best Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie that could ever be made. Like they got it in one. There's nothing you could actually improve about that movie without breaking it being a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
It's amazing. I still like it's not quite perfection like to the original Mirage comics, but I mean it's about as close as you're gonna get. Come on.
Again, we're talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. This is the best they're ever going to get. You do anything more, add any more pathos, and it's going to break them.
Yeah.
Because the human mind watching a live action movie cannot stop to think, okay, yeah, but we are talking about giant Ninja Turtle men, right? It's what Michael Bay didn't realize.
Oof. Jesus. No thank you to that. So with Peter David making a very poor joke here, plus the absolutely shockingly bad artwork, there's not much to recommend here.
It's really weird how it goes from a Vanilla Ice Ninja Rap parody immediately to a hate crime.
Yeah, one of the Genoshan former mutate kids is just, sculpting with cold fire as one does. Unfortunately, he's doing this in Central Park, and some locals who just seem really just afraid of what doesn't really seem very scary decide to, beat him to death. And the thing about this is like there are like some select scenes throughout Executioner's Song that do try and follow up on this, but it really does just kind of get dropped.
Part of the reason why Peter David quit X Factor is because Executioner's Song completely interrupted this arc. I
mean, I'm glad that he, stood by his artistic principles, I guess. And
it's a weird story to stake your claim on of early 90s X-Men and saying that, no, this is the level of artistic integrity that I'm going to take. But hey, you know what?
Yeah, and I appreciate the basic intention of wanting to tell a story about, immigration, refugees, migrants. And in the mutant metaphor, like it's just not executed with any kind of interesting storyline. These characters are not interesting. What they're doing is not interesting, and their interactions with X Factor are not interesting either. So this is bad, and I think we should put it down the list where it belongs.
We are not an X Factor friendly podcast, are we?
Well, listen, if it's I genuinely enjoy the Strowman and the Casada stuff leading up to this, but it really goes off the rails when it does not have a stylistic artist paired with him.
So I'm going down the list. Examinations is at number 90 on the list. It's way below that.
Yeah, of course.
The Nasty Boy stuff with Strowman's at 142. Below that.
This is worse than Beauty and the Beast at 597.
Man, you jumped way down, and I love it.
Well, let's get serious. This is crap. It is not.
I fell asleep reading this comic.
Yeah, it is not interesting in the slightest. So I'm working my way down into the 600s here.
I was tired, and I had just gone back from a Christmas party. So
I don't think this is as good as 651, which is the first 6 issues of X Factor.
Oh, okay. No, Adam.
You think this is better than that?
Adam, your hate has blinded you.
Oh, come on.
The first 6 issues of X Factor. Let's just look at the first issue that absolutely ruins Scott Summers for like 7 years. So the rest of the book is fixing that first issue.
Okay. I don't know. Well, I'm not going to go much higher than this. This is not better than 646 Morlock Stake Manhattan.
Yeah, they are equally bad.
Yeah.
It's about as good as Phalanx Covenant Life Signs.
I'm going to give it to Life Signs. I think that's better. So this is our new 649.
I don't know. Is this better than Furnace of His Mind and Beloved's Heart?
Probably not. No, absolutely not.
Putting it below that, we're putting it above Excalibur 115 Missionaries.
All right. That seems like an appropriate spot. This is just like a nothing story that looks like poop.
It's a weird one. And listen, Peter David has written a lot of stories. Peter David's written a lot of forgettable stories. This is one of them.
Yeah. We're going to stick with odd. This is odd.
Odd. You're talking about the comic book event of 2003.
It sure didn't feel that way. Tell me what this is, Zach, because I didn't know. I pride myself on the career of this particular artist, Chris Bachalo. And I'm sure that on some list somewhere I had read that this was something he had worked on, but I'd never read it. What is this? What is Ultimate War from 2003?
It's the Ultimates versus the Ultimate X-Men. It was the first Ultimate Universe crossover.
Oh my. That does sound really important.
It's written by Mark Millar. Pencils by Chris Bachalo. Tim Townsend's on those inks. You got those tight Townsend inks. Andy Owens also jumps in. Hey, shocking no one. The farther you get into this, the more inkers Chris Bachalo has. It's a 4-issue miniseries. He goes up from 1 inker to 3 inkers by the end.
All right. I want to hold the Chris for a second because I do
hold the Chris.
Some notes. Man, are we saying Millar or Miller at this point?
I mean, his name's Miller. His name's Miller.
Is it Miller?
Yeah. He's just Scottish.
Can I just say, I hate Mark Miller's writing, man. It drives me absolutely nuts. This is so bad. Nothing happens in this story. Nothing. It takes till the third issue for these guys to fight, and then they don't really fight. That's bad.
The thing about this. So the Ultimates have just gotten back from their first arc. So Black Widow's on the team. Hulk is gone. I don't know, fighting Freddie Prinze Jr. or something. I forget. And the X-Men had been split up, but they have gone underground because Hank McCoy may have spilled a bunch of the X-Men secrets to his girlfriend on the internet. But oops, it turns out his girlfriend was a member of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants.
Way to go, Hank.
Hank Hank McCoy does get catfished by a gorilla man, which is
Well,
wild.
it is interesting. I would like to note that within these pages, that choice and the way that they describe this fictional person is pretty offensive.
Oh, it's a Mark. Okay, that comes off as wrong. It is a Mark Miller comic from 2003. They use the exact language that you would expect.
Yeah, I think I shared it in our Slack the other day. There's a 4-panel spread from either the first or the second issue where, in no short order, he basically does like the sexist language. Then he goes over and does the anti-Semitic stuff, which I'd like to get into. And then he basically, like, the way he is voicing Storm throughout this is like really borderline racist. And oh man, he is just distasteful on every end that you can think of.
It's a lot.
Oh, it's so bad. It's so bad. Like, every character has to address another character with some kind of name. So characters are constantly calling each other name, like dude or man. Uh, it's oh, I'm sorry. I need a break from talking about Mark Miller for a second. Do you want to handle like the basic plot of this, which is not really there?
So you remember at the end of Ultimates Tomorrow People, Ultimate X-Men The Tomorrow People, where Magneto had President George W. Bush naked on the White House lawn and the X-Men stopped him and
Do remember that?
wiped
Yes.
his memory. Well, the other person who remembers this is President George W. Bush, who is pretty upset when he finds out that Magneto's definitely still alive, and it is believed that Charles Xavier helped him escape, which is true, is part of the problem.
Sure.
Charles Xavier did keep Magneto and try and rehabilitate him, a la Joseph, a la Sabretooth, a la all of those things, as an old man feeding pigeons in the park.
Yeah, it didn't work. And now the Brotherhood is blowing up trucks on the Brooklyn Bridge.
They are doing some terrorist activities. This is a post 9/11 comic. There's a lot going on with that. The X-Men are underground, dealing with a lot of things. Also dealing with the fact that in the last issue of Ultimate X-Men, Wolverine and Cyclops and new recruit Kitty Pryde were in the the Savage Land. And Wolverine very deliberately drops Cyclops down a chasm to murder him.
And it's suggested in this story that maybe he did it to get at Jean Grey.
It's suggested in this story because that was the explicit text of why he did it, yes.
Yes.
Cyclops doesn't die. He eventually comes back. But he does have every bone in his body broken from falling down a pit. And everyone's pretty cool with Wolverine doing that long term.
You know, it might help here if any of these characters seemed even remotely likable, but the Ultimates are not likable. The Ultimate X-Men are not likable.
Okay, the Ultimates are not likable. And one thing that I think, that's one thing that does get lost is that Mark Miller is making the Ultimates the unlikable military arm of superheroes. Like, S.H.I.E.L.D. is not supposed to be the good guys. This is very much a critique of post 9/11 ideas of superheroes and who heroes are and how the government should react. But that kind of gets lost in the fact that they are still Captain America and Thor and all of your favorite Avenger friends.
Well, there is a good gag. I'll give Mark Miller credit for this one, where Samuel L. Jackson takes George Bush to the town of Lincoln, which is another acronym for Leaders in Need Christian Only Lockdown Network, which is essentially a safe town for presidents, like the ultimate insecurity. And okay, if we're going for this post 9/11, like, you know, take on Department of Homeland Security, that's not a bad one. I'll give it to him.
The Ultimates is filled with great ideas and execution that may or may not be terrible.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not much happens.
Nothing happens in this comic.
No, Pietro and Wanda come to help the Avengers. The Magneto basically shows up, shoots out Pietro's kneecaps. Oof. And then destroys the place and flies away. And then they figure out where the X-Men are. And then there's some limited fighting in I guess the third issue, but not much happens here.
They capture Xavier and say, follow this story in the pages of Ultimate X-Men.
Yeah, like very for it being a mini, we would expect there to be at least another issue, because the last issue kind of wraps up with Iceman, who is not currently on the Ultimate X-Men team.
His parents pulled him out of the X-Men after
Right.
something.
He basically shows up and like freezes half of the city to, stop what's going on. And that's it. That's how it ends. So I want to talk about Chris's work here.
Please.
I love Chris.
I have a page of Chris's behind me. Yeah. And I know I was with you when you bought a page of Chris's. We are fans.
I stare at it every day. It's right over top of my computer in my office. He is by far my favorite artist in comics, if not my favorite. I'm hard pressed to think of another artist I like more. That said, I think what he's doing here is messy to the point where it disrupts the story. One of the things that he's playing around with is he's doing these panels where characters are constantly mid-leap off screen. So you get half a character, you might get the leg of a character. And unfortunately, because I think these costumes are they're much more drab. They're not as easily recognizable if you have not been reading these books. It becomes difficult to tell who is who. And there's a lot of busyness in terms of his framing that just does not help the story. There were definitely silhouettes and special effects, explosions, things that I saw on pages that just, to me, I could not really tell what they were. And I appreciate that he's experimenting. He always is trying new things. But to me, this was not working as well as
we had a conversation, you, I, and a few others in the Comics XF Slack recently about how we should just figure out, how do you rank all of Bachelor's art styles?
Oh, yeah.
Because we all know what the best is and we all know what the worst is, but that middle area is very interesting. And this is on the lower side of good Bachelor styles. It's pretty confusing, pretty messy, pretty hard to deal with.
Yeah, it's a style that is definitely going to lead up to eventually what he does with Bendis's Uncanny, right?
Which is a style that I like, actually.
Yes.
That turns the corner back to let's still keep that weird sketchiness, but have it a lot tighter and have the characters maintain focus and keep it on the scenes. Like, he does it well there. I think, he even starts to get to that point with stuff like Supernovas. Yeah.
No, I would agree. But for whatever reason, this was not singing to me. So I did not really enjoy reading this very much, Zach. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you think that this was a book that I had like a lot of connection?
Well, I know you have a fondness for Ultimate X-Men that I don't usually share, and
I have an interesting fondness to it. I don't know if I enjoy it in so much that it sure is a book that I own all of.
Do you own this one?
Oh yeah, I own this one. Yeah. I read my hardcover of this one instead of the app.
Wow, hardcover, huh?
I got it. I have it in hardcover.
Well,
it's not very good.
I'll tell you what I will not be buying anytime soon is this in any sort of physical media. So let's take a look down the list. This is certainly not as bad as X-Patriots at 650.
It's not. What hold on. Let me find some Ultimate stories.
Tell me if this is better than part 2 of X-Men The End, Zach, as the X-Men The End advocate on this show. That's the one where Gambit does trade places with Sinister.
No, it's not as good as that.
All right, so we are
It's
in
not
the
as good as that. This is better than Rise of Apocalypse.
I would
And
agree.
I would say this is even better than Quest Probe. Maybe not as good as Nightcrawler: The Winding Way.
Wow, we got that really quickly. So this is going to be our new.
We have been on a
6.
roll tonight, Adam.
Yeah, man, we've been pinpointing like laser scope precision. That was pretty tight. So this is going to be our new 614 Ultimate War. It is certainly not the ultimate anything.
But our ultimate Patreon supporter is Nobody this week. Nobody, thank you for going over to patreon.com. Like great patrons like JJ McCorvey, or the new person whose name I forgot to write down so far, but we'll shout out next week. If you want to be like any of these people, go on over to patreon.com/comicsxf, rewind this episode, and listen to what Adam told you to do at the beginning of it. Adam, anything you want to shout out?
I mean, you can follow me on Instagram at adam.rec. Other than that, this is being recorded for 2 weeks in advance. I don't think I'll have done anything of note by then. So
I will have made food and enjoyed Christmas.
Happy New Year. And
happy 2023, everybody.
Yeah.
I hope I had a great Christmas.
Yeah, I hope it's a good one. And Zach, what do we got going on next week?
Next week, we're going to take a little trip to Genosha.
Uh-oh. I thought we just got out of Genosha.
We get in, we get out. I lied. We're going to Madripoor. It's a different island.
Oh, that's a different kind of story, Zach. You got to be specific about these things.
Well, hey, Adam, just wait till you figure out where we're going in 2 weeks. But until then, folks, this has been Bally Adam. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!